Good afternoon and welcome to another wonderful edition of Hyundai's Hockey on 216. Those of you who know your hockey and certainly in the Johannesburg area will know that we're broadcasting to you live from St. Stithians Astros. Always just wonderful for us. We do love being at an AstroTurf as opposed to a studio, don't we? And we're going to apologize in advance. There's a lot of kids around here having a great deal of fun, a lot of hockey. So if there's some screaming and shouting in the background, it is one of those environments and we really love it. First up on the show tonight, we've got Warren Tanner Ellis. Many of you in the area will know him as well. The director of hockey here on the St. Stithians campus. Warren, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Calvin. Yeah,
really good to have you.
Looking forward to the next few days. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and good luck. You know, it's always tense. We delayed the shot a bit because we've had a bit of rain and lightning, and you were busy reorganising fixtures. So we really appreciate you giving us the time to chat. And as always, Kinnison Woodley and Bridget Key, wonderful to have both of you here. And thanks for holding the show together last week while I was touring. Really appreciate that. So,
absolutely.
Warren, first up, I mean, you know, this for many, the Saints, as it's Sports Fest, as it's known, it's the original Easter Sports Festival in South Africa. Yeah. Hockey's been reintroduced. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's just got an incredible history, hasn't it, this event?
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. I mean, this is the 41st year. I hope the historians don't correct me, but it's the 41st year that the festival's been running. It started just with rugby, and if you talk to some of the old alumni, it really just was that. We had half a tent as a beer tent and hospitality, and it's grown since then. Hockey was introduced in 2003, so it's been running since then. And yeah, just magic. I think sometimes we forget that it's not just a hockey festival. This weekend or leading into the weekend, we have netball, football, tennis, squash. Hope I'm not missing out one of the codes. Obviously rugby.
Yep.
Our director
soccer,
of rugby would not be.
Soccer.
And there's football. There's football. So
you know that.
And you talk about all the sport, and I mean these two know, but the one thing that I've been so amazed at is this hospitality tent on the hockey. I'm not sure there's a better hospitality tent
Calvin's
in
already
hockey. You know, I was here early for that, and I mean to tell you, there's a steak roll from the Grill House. There's paella from La Baquera, and there's a Forno's bakery to die for, including giant Easter eggs, handmade artisanal chocolate Easter eggs. So this is the place to be if you're any sort of hockey or food fan this weekend.
And Calvin, I must just, I hope it's okay, just to thank our parents committee, because they worked probably for about 8 months planning this event. When we spoke about the hospitality tent, it costs quite a bit of money to put that tent up. Yes. I won't mention the number. It's just in fear about the St. Stithians parents' school fees wanting to come down. But it's all sponsored. So you know we work with our sponsors. The parent committee. I mean we up late last night. The last 2 weeks just planning so that we do give and not just the hospitality, but also just the students who are visiting. We give them a wonderful experience. It is Easter. We are, leading into a long weekend, and it's just so fabulous. We hope the weather plays part, but it is nice to have everyone fill that hospitality tent. And I did try the steak roll earlier. It's everything you said it was.
I'm going to try that paella later. I think we spoke about it.
Don't miss out. Absolutely.
Yeah, Warren. I mean, what's amazed me with all these Easter festivals, and particularly the Saints one, is how many spectators travel from all over the country.
Absolutely.
To watch, I just see the hospitality tents are full, and officially the festival starts tomorrow with the hockey starting today. But it's jam-packed.
You talk about some of those travelling parents. I got here quite early today. I had a couple of meetings on site, quite well organised, I thought, and the Epworth parents were ready. They'd already arranged a table in the corner. I think they had to get some special permission. They had themselves already in the corner there very, very early on this afternoon, or this morning. So
look, and I think that what we're trying to give is that. Like a lot of festivals now charge at the gate, yes. And we don't charge at the hospitality tent. We just feel it's excessive, and we want everyone to experience the hospitality tent.
Ori, I trained last night, so I play at Crusaders here under you, but these pitches now are probably two of the best pitches in the country at the moment, and this facility is one that should be hosting hockey across the country. I mean, you guys have got something going on here.
No, thanks, Bridge, and I think the important thing for us was to get 2 new turfs in. They're quite costly. I must just say that the experience we had with putting in the Balgatex TX Pros has been fantastic. Super Park Blue, as we call it, was put in last year March. and Super Park Red we did over the end of year season, so it was ready for the beginning of the year. And we're just thankful to amazing sponsors like Super Group, who helped us with the turfs. And I think just in terms of your comment, Joe, we want to host as much as possible, as much hockey as possible, and not just at a school level, but you mentioned a club as well.
Absolutely.
We're talking to one or two people, I can't say anything now, but just about how we actually use this facility as much as possible in going forward with hockey.
I mean, you hosted IPT Senior last year, and hopefully going forward there's opportunity for it at an under 21 level, at a school level, things like that. So
100%. I mean, I think I had a chat with the Southern Gauteng president just last week and said, what more can we do? And not, again, not just for the school, but for hockey in general. How can we use this facility? St. Stephen's itself is 105 hectares, and I think what helps there is the little things like parking. Security, and I think we take that for granted, but the more we can use our facilities, the better. We spoke about a third Astro. We're struggling with space in this one corner, but we've got some other plans where we at the moment talking about putting in a purpose-built fives AstroTurf, so we can actually host international competitions for fives. This costs a lot of money to run, and we do look at ways of generating revenue, and we've seen hockey fives as a way of possibly doing that as well. So yeah, thank you for the compliments. Our next step is to build. We've got plans to build a proper clubhouse. At the moment, we're sitting in our big box container deck, which is nice. But if we don't have to spend the money on that tent every year, because we can duplicate that with a clubhouse experience, that's the next 3 to 5 year plan that we have here at
So a
Saints.
serious hockey hub in the hockey space.
Correct.
Warren, it's good to hear you mentioned international hockey. And in the show a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about needing to give our players more opportunity, because just how many talented hockey players we have in this camp. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd like to see schools like Saints and schools with these types of facilities, putting their hand up to host a under 21 World Cup or an international event. We've often struggled with facilities for that. It would be great if we could give our players more opportunity by hosting those events in South Africa. We've got the facilities.
100%, and that's definitely the goal. I mean, just to give you an idea, our current irrigation system would not pass an FIH qualification. So we are going at the end of this year upgrading to a new irrigation system that would get us an FIH accreditation, so we could host international events. That's certainly the goal, that we can do that. But also just giving back. I mean, we've got at Saints a program called Tumbalwazi,
Yes.
which it's a maths and science academy. Over 2,000 students come onto the campus every Saturday to learn, and that's from underprivileged environments. We're now talking about forming a Tumbalwazi hockey team,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
actually giving back that way.
Yeah.
This is why we're running a lot of the time, and we really appreciate having you on the show. Into this festival this weekend, you've obviously got a boys and a girls team playing. Tell us a little bit about the boys' side. They've really had I think, a very good start to the season, a bit of a blip against Jeppe early on, coming very close though to winning. Other than that, they've really had a very, very solid start to the year.
No, thanks, Calvin. I think they've put in a lot of work. It's the first time in our program we've done an off-season. So towards the end of last year, we actually started in September with a group of 28 boys, and we've worked a full off-season, pre-season, putting a lot of focus from a sports science perspective into hockey, and into our boys' college first side and girls' college side, so that it gives them the best opportunity. But I think their aspirations, they want to be a top 5 side in the country. That's the goal. We know all about the rankings and how that works. So they're putting in a lot of effort. And just looking forward to them in the rest of this tournament. Big game tonight against Hilton.
Always a big game, that one, isn't it?
That's
a big game.
It's a cracker, so that'll be good. I know some of their goals and aspirations, they'd love to win Aiken, which is a Johannesburg-based competition.
Such an important competition for the boys' schools in Johannesburg, isn't it?
100%, yeah.
I'm a proud winner of that tournament, so I hold it very close to my heart. So,
Your St. David's Day.
my St. David's Day, I won it for the boys.
Not a lot Bridget hasn't won as a coach.
No, I can-
Mary's, Aiken, she's
I can
done it,
imagine.
seen it all, done it
I
all.
like
won
to throw it
most
out.
of
Yeah.
And you speak about this off-season program, and again, we covered in the first segment or the first episode of Hockey on 216 that the program has become so tight that you're playing some of your biggest games in the season in March already.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that off-season program becomes so important.
Absolutely.
Because it leads into, you've played Jeppe already. That would be one of your big games.
100%.
You might catch them at Aitken again.
In the final.
Yeah, perhaps.
Who knows? It could be good.
But you're playing that game after 2 weeks into the season, and so the post-season and pre-season is an important phase.
No, it is, and I guess the challenge is when you go off-season, in other words, sort of term 3 for us, the end of last year, you now are interfering with the summer code sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's fortunately very good relationship with our sports directors of Boys and Girls College, where we actually say how do we enhance their summer code sports by doing an off-season strength and conditioning hockey program and not take away.
So important.
And it needs support from parents because it's often early mornings, and we kind of hopefully sell it to them to say the kids learn about time management and about how they can do strength and conditioning, but also then stick to their summer codes and not have those negatively affected.
Absolutely, and that multi-sport is always such an important thing in a child's sort of growth, isn't it?
100%.
And so we spoke a bit about the boys' side. The girls' side also been having a good run over the last couple of years.
Definitely. I mean, we had a strong caliber of player last year. I mean, this is, I think the phrase I heard was rebuilding.
Well, you had some very special players last year. Let's be fair. It's very tough. One in particular.
Yeah, one in particular. She's off to Namibia with the under 21 national side.
Ria as our captain last year, who we were referring
Something
to,
special.
was really
Yeah.
good. And also an amazing player, but just a good leader as well, and inspired the other players. Our girls' college side is developing. I think if I look, I'm actually currently coaching the girls' college under 14A side. And I look at the strength we have there and in 1 or 2 grades. So we'll go through a rebuild and they're going to get stronger and stronger.
Well, that's exciting.
So, 30 seconds. One thing you'd like to see more of in schools hockey. What is that one thing, and it can be anything. What is that one thing you'd really like to see more of?
I think collaboration amongst the coaches. I think that's, I think you mentioned on a previous show, I think it was at St Mary's Fest, the amount of experience you had in those coaches. And how do we get forums together that allow that collaboration amongst that experience to work to the benefit of not only school hockey, but as it pushes up through the older age groups?
Absolutely. Well, there's a challenge from Warren to the rest of the hockey community. How do we collaborate more for the good of hockey in South Africa? We'll be back after the break with an interview with the Epworth coach and captain who are playing at this tournament. Not often we get the schools from Maritzburg up in Joburg, so we're looking for that. Warren, fantastic and really great having you on the show, and thanks for hosting us here in this just incredible hockey cauldron. Thank you very much.
And thank you for what you guys do for hockey. We really appreciate it.
And we'll see you back straight after the break for Hockey on 216, proudly brought to you by Hyundai. And welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. Wonderful to have 2 people up from the sort of home of hockey, in my view, Peter Maritzburg. We've discussed that enough, haven't we? No, not biased at all. For many people, obviously, will know Darren Gallagher, former national men's player, recently at Hilton College, now the director of hockey, head of sport at Epworth. Darren, wonderful to have you here.
Thanks,
really appreciate your time on the show. And with him, Catherine Schulzer, captain of the Epworth team this year. Catherine, wonderful to have you on the show, and we really appreciate you giving us some time. I see it by the look of your shoes and your attire. You've come straight off a game and run across to join us, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No, really good to have you. Gally, the move from boys and men's hockey to girls hockey is obviously quite a change. As far as I understand, it's the first time in your career you've sort of been there. How's that changed your approach? What are the things you sort of bringing across from boys hockey into girls hockey? What are the sort of things you're doing maybe a little bit less of? Really interested in your insights into that transition.
Yeah, so interesting enough, I have coached girls before. Coached at Girls High in Maritzburg some time back. I've coached provincially at senior ladies level, so
I think
have
Gally coached
I've
me
done
once.
it before. Yeah,
Wow.
so I've done it before.
Yeah,
I'm that old. Yeah, but yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a tricky change. Obviously, I mean, from an inside point of view, the rest of the world's going one way and schoolgirls hockey's going the other. Today was our first full hockey match. The schoolgirls tend to like these sort of 20-minute one-way, 25-minute one-ways, which has been very different from a boys' perspective because they like full games in the boys' setup.
And that's obviously hard coaching because you just don't have that, you don't have the quarter break
Yeah,
or half time.
you don't. So a lot more time goes into your prep for a game. You have to really analyse quite hard in terms of the oppositions, and also we've worked quite hard to have a couple of different playing systems on offense and defense to make sure that girls can change in game time, because you don't have that touch time at the end of a quarter to change things.
Captain's a little bit more important in the girls' hockey than they are in the girls' hockey. They make a lot more decisions.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
How's she doing?
She's doing really well. No, she's great.
More
She's great.
academically in tune, the girls player. You got
Think about the game.
you got to think a little bit more about the game, adapt slightly, all of those types of things, I would think.
Catherine, tell us a bit about your season so far. I mean, you guys had a really good start. You won the Spa Series tournament in Pietermaritzburg. You've come fresh out of the Kingsmead Courage tournament. I think you guys finished third. Very narrow loss in I think the game was actually over in the semi-final. So tell us a bit about your season so far.
We've had a very good start to the season. Winning Spa was definitely a highlight for a lot of our girls. Lost at shootouts last year, so we're very happy to win it this year. Kingsmead, the semis, it was tough. We played really well though, so we were still happy with the third place.
Yeah, I saw in the quarterfinals you guys had a tough loss there because I think your hopes were to make, but in the quarterfinals to not play. Oh, in the semi-finals,
semis.
There we go. Yeah. Semi-finals to not make it into the finals, I think was a tough one to swallow.
Surely at the death,
Yeah.
Came through and we stuff. I mean, Darren was talking about some of the transitions he's had to make as a team. Having Gally come across from Hilton College, he's brought a very different approach. Tell us a bit about your pre-season. What was different? What has he brought to Epworth hockey that perhaps wasn't there in the past couple of years, and how's that impacted you as a team?
It's definitely helped us a lot. It's been a lot more hardcore, lots of fitness still training, so I think we were used to that, but it was definitely benefited us a lot though. Bringing new ideas into our team has helped a lot. Yeah.
And you found that, I know a lot of your team are athletes. They're really talented athletes. You've got someone who won the doozy. That sort of strength is required, and I'm sure has been utilised on the park.
Yeah, so definitely having athletes that are, I think everyone in the team plays more than one sport. So our focus is not just on hockey, but then the other sports help us a lot with our fitness and just being able to play our best.
Gally, you spoke about this 20-minute, 25-minute hockey. It's of great interest to me how you prepare, knowing that you're going to come to a tournament-style format and only play for 25
one way.
You spoke about, teaching the girls to change within a game, but, does this affect your preparation leading into the season? Because now you'll go back and play normal hockey of 2 25-minute halves or chuckers. And how do you make that transition out of the 25-minute stuff into the normal game?
Yeah, so for me, that's what was important for us to come to this festival. We obviously came with Hilton, and it's a really great festival, and it gives us an opportunity to play normal quarters. So that for me is prep going into the season.
Right. Cool. I mean, you spoke about, obviously, you come from a Hilton College recently. One of the things that I was quite interested in seeing in your prep is you took the girls to a camp at Hilton for 3-4 days. Yeah. Obviously camped, great place to camp, that, we all know, beautiful place. But also you played against the under-16 boys, I think even against their first team. And I'd be interested in both of you in terms of what did you take out of that, maybe as a coaching perspective, and Catherine as a player. I mean, I'm sure you haven't played that often against boys. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit quicker, they're a bit faster. What was in the exercise and what came out of it for you?
Well, for me, I wanted to expose the girls to what is a more professional environment than what they would be used to. So, the Hilton boys, their training ethics good. They've got state-of-the-art equipment like a catapult system, there's a video analysis. And what I really wanted the girls to see was the boys' ability, obviously other than the fact that they play a whole lot quicker and having to adapt to that, was the boys' ability to be able to just shift between playing systems in game time. For them, my team, I'd spoken to them a lot about it, but for them to actually see it in place. And then the girls started to try and problem solve on the pitch, which makes a difference, and they're starting to learn to be better on the pitch and not have to wait for instructions from me.
So that was obviously those 20-minute games that you spoke about.
So that was a big focus area for me, and I think that took a lot out of that.
Catherine, what was your sort of take out of it as a player?
I think it was a great weekend for us, not to just bond, but also to play at a much higher intensity and not anything we would be usually playing against, and none of the girls' schools would play as well as Hilton does. But it was good for us to be exposed to that, not even just for the season, but for our future in hockey, with better playing systems. And
I mean, I know at a national level they often do that with the senior ladies and the under 21 ladies. They go train against schoolboy sides because of the physicality,
Yeah.
the speed, all of those types of things, which is so good for your skill level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you caught a few of them by surprise with the sort of pace. You got quite a few really quick girls. You yourself being one of them, a proper athlete. You caught a few of those boys by surprise when you took off there.
I don't think so, but
Give yourself
Quicker
some
than they
credit,
thought.
Kath.
One of the other bits, and I watched a few of your games this season, the short corner work that's come out of Epworth this year. I know you play a lot of indoor in your system, the girls down there. I've seen a lot of variations. I'm really interested in certainly at the Kingsmead tournament, there were some really tricky variations that you pulled off and scored from. Mostly you and your sister Anna are taking a lot of shots from the top of the D. From what I see today, she's outscoring you. But
one goal.
one goal. But really interested in
Not
sort of the
competitive.
short corner. You clearly something that you've worked on as a team, because you're pulling them off and you're getting a lot of impact from those opportunities.
Yeah, look, I think we all know PCs are kind of make or break. You would have seen from Paul Fillet, they scored on the death against us at Kingsmead, and that's what it's about. So I think we've worked really hard, and obviously in a boys' environment, they tend to have very strong flickers. So there's quite a big emphasis on flicker, whereas in the girls' setup, I think variety is pretty good. So we've tried to implement quite a lot of that.
Gally and Catherine, one of the things I've been so impressed with Epworth this year, I've watched quite a few of your games, has been your PC attack. Some wonderful variations. Are they out of your sort of indoor playbook, a lot of the indoor hockey that you've brought to play, but just incredible variations that we've seen coming out of your PCs, and it's been a very impactful part of your game.
Yeah, for me coming in, having come from the boys setup, there's quite a big emphasis on flicking. The boys are a lot stronger and a lot more accurate, probably spend a lot more time training it. So for me it was about introducing that concept at Epworth, but also to make sure that if that doesn't work, we have sort of other weapons and artillery to make sure that we can open up defences. So we've worked quite hard at a range of variations, and so far it's worked quite well.
There's some really tricky ones in there, Catherine. I mean, getting the good, when you get into that, it's like 3 or 4 things that have to go right every time, and they do. What's worked for you in that team? And a lot of it is you and your sister that are playing in that. It's quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think that we've also gotten more time to train for our PCs, like Mr. Gallagher's put in times where we trained for PCs, but we hadn't really in the past. And it's definitely helped us a lot, and yeah.
It's worked. I mean, he says a sort of straight flick, but I saw 1 or 2 from you last week, sort of gunning it, maybe not into the top corner, but very, very close. So, I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
No, it's wonderful.
I think the variations might stop working though, because I think she's going to stop passing to Anna.
Yeah, I've seen that Anna's outscoring today. A little hat trick from your sister Anna today. So on the sort of goals in the season, are you ahead? Is she ahead? Where's it sitting?
I think I was ahead, and I think after this game she's won.
So you're definitely not passing.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, when Anna doesn't get a pass the rest of the game.
Gally, I know now, having moved across to the girls' space, you have done a lot of hockey in that space before. But something that I've always wanted to ask is now your emphasis that you would want to coach, and what are you seeing from players in the girls' space into the national space, particularly in the under 21 setup, the development that's required, the growth and the opportunity that this is allowing for you to elevate that and almost grow players into the opportunity of senior players eventually down the line.
Yeah, look, it's a good opportunity. Coming in and watching quite a bit of the girls' game, I think probably one of the biggest areas that I would say we would need to work on in other teams is probably our decision making. You tend to find that girls make a lot of sort of wrong decisions. The decisions are just too slow. And I think from a technical component, a lot of that stems from their receiving skills. I think if you're a good receiver of the ball, generally you're going to be a good player. So a lot of them, the receiving kind of puts them under pressure and the head's down, and if they can fix those small elements, I think it'll take girls a long way. From an Epworth perspective and a Maritzburg perspective, obviously for me to try and drive a higher standard, getting girls to aspire to making national setups, it will take time, but that would be the goal.
Yeah, and Gally, by way of sort of summing up some of the themes that you've spoken about and moving across to the girls' setup now. You spoke about training ethic as a theme. You've spoken about the set pieces. Sort of emphasis on receiving. Have there been some key components of the game that you've said these are the things I need to target
Yeah.
in getting Epworth to where you'd like them to be?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing coming in was conditioning. I actually set the girls a challenge for the December-January holiday of 4 3K time trials a week. And they clocked up over 180 Ks as a group. So they bought in straight away in total.
Okay.
So they bought in from a culture perspective, which really helped us in terms of our preseason, because we weren't spending time on things that were very much controllable for them. Big emphasis for me was teaching the girls different ways to play the game. I haven't had a big focus on results. I like to coach teams on how to play the game so that they'll be successful beyond school, not necessarily just to win games and move up the rankings. So trying to teach them 1 or 2 different ways to press, 1 or 2 different ways to outlet, and just help grow their knowledge of the game. So those were kind of my focus areas.
You spoke a little bit earlier about that sort of receiving skill. One of my bugbears watching is how few kids scan the field before receiving and then stop the ball and now look up to decide what to do.
Yeah.
How do you work on something like that?
I suppose it comes through your training routines, the types of drills you're doing. So I suppose you've got to start with the fundamentals and implementing the right ways to receive, and then obviously progressing up into more competitive stuff. So they're learning to do it when they're under pressure and in a competitive environment.
Gally, having worked with you in the past, I mean, you're very strong about separating technical and tactical ability. I mean, would you say that to fast track the team for the tournaments you've been in, you've had to do that in equal amounts? Because normally you'd start off a good technical base and move into the tactical elements.
Yeah, I've been quite lucky because I've set up an academy, and a lot of the girls come to the academy.
Okay.
So I focus really hard on the technical in the academy, and then in our training sessions, I try and train drills that are more geared towards how we want to play, and then expand into your sort of broader tactical component.
You can see what a sharp captain he is there, because he's just given a little plug there to the Darren Gallagher Academy. For those aspiring hockey players in Maritzburg, it's the Darren Gallagher
why not,
Academy. That's a good place to be. Catherine, I mean, you're a matric kid now. You've had a wonderful career at Epworth, finishing up as a captain. We spoke earlier, quite an athlete as well. What are your plans for next year? What are you thinking about? Is hockey part of your future? What are we going to see from Catherine Scholzer next year?
I'm going to study here at Steadies or Tucks, and definitely hockey's definitely going to be in that. I'll probably do some athletics as well, and
well, bit of an athletics background in that family tree of yours, isn't there? So always important to do that. Gally, the rest of the season, maybe just give us a little quick. What do you want from it? You're in the middle of a festival now, not a tournament. So this, winning and losing here doesn't sort of cost you a place or a trophy. What are you looking for from this group of girls, and what would success look like?
Look, for me, coming in, my goal was to make the team hard to beat, and to help them grow their love of the game and their knowledge of the game. So for me, to be competitive, to take on teams ranked higher than us, and actually, I suppose, earn respect of those around us.
Yeah. Well, look, certainly there was some wonderful respect out there. You certainly gave Baloo something to think about. 4-1, I think, in the end there. Wonderful win this morning. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. We really appreciate both of you joining us on the show. We'll be back after the break as we go through this past weekend of derby results. I'm really looking forward to the derbies that stood out for Crimson and for Bridget over this past weekend. There were some really interesting results, and we'll be talking about those after the break. And we'll see you then. Thank you. Welcome back from the break to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. It's been another wonderful weekend of derby hockey, perhaps not as many matches as we used to. So, Bridge, you probably had a bit of a weekend off, it must have felt like, with a lot of schools on holiday. But there was still some wonderful action from around the country. I've sort of spoken to both of you and said, what are those results and stand out for you this past weekend? I mean, often we'd love to talk about everything that we've seen. And so, Chris, maybe starting with you, one of those first results that stood out for you this weekend?
Yeah, so, I mean, some tight games this weekend. I think interesting result for me. I mean, we've thought that Uffies have had a really good team, and they managed to just beat Elderain 2-1, which I think, obviously a very close game. And Elderain, a school that's really putting a lot of effort into their hockey at the moment. They host an incredible second team festival, which has, gained traction over the last couple of years. And great that there's an opportunity for the second team guys. and it's obviously aiding their hockey.
And perhaps in that Northern setup, if we're critical of Northern's hockey setup, perhaps it hasn't been enough competitive boys teams. A lot of competitive girls teams over the period. Maybe not enough, which is really good news. Another competitive boys team in that Northern setup.
Well, I mean, it's amazing. They actually two Astros next to each other. The Sutherland High School have their Astro close by, so it's a perfect place to host tournaments. They literally have a gate between the two schools, and they're putting on this festival. There's SWAT Corp, what's called SWAT.
Yeah,
put in an Astro. I think last year was the first year they had that, so it's going to be good to see new schools coming on board in terms of contributing to the Northern's program.
Great news for Northerns. Bridget, what stood out for you this past weekend?
I'm going to do a 2-for-1 special here. Collegiate did it. Blomhof played in the final. That's Mary's.
Just a week ago?
Yep.
10 days ago, a week ago.
And their Collegiate, who didn't have a great St. Mary's festival, went and beat Blomhof 2-1.
Wow.
Phenomenal game.
So we certainly didn't see that coming, did we?
Not at all. Michael Abrams coaching the Collegiate side. He's doing great work with them. It's a team that's always been there. They've always had good players, but they're always tough. And then they went on and played Greenwich, who we've spoken a lot about so far, and they ended up beating Greenwich. Oh, no, sorry, a draw, 1-1.
Well, it must have felt like a win.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it felt like a win. I've certainly been calling that Greenwich team not to have got to the final at St. Mary's and to draw 1-1 with Collegiate season. I think we're going to see a big bounce back. I don't know who they've got next, Greenwich, but I'd hate to be coming up against them next because they're going to be looking for some payback, aren't they? But as you say, for Collegiate to go down there back to back, I mean, you talk about AstroTurfs. I mean, at least they only have to open the gate and go through from one Astro to the other. A bit of a similar setup there at Blomhof
Greenwich, yeah.
But that is incredible, isn't it? I mean, that's back to back on one weekend. We're probably not going to see that from another team in the country this year. Play two really top sides and surprise. Well done to that Collegiate output. What else stood out for you?
Yeah, so another interesting result. Kes Pretoria Boys are 2-2 in their derby fixture. I think that would have been an end-to-end battle. Both teams play with a lot of physicality and a lot of speed. So that's I would say that's a fair result. 2-2 Kes Boys are. Interesting one for me. Worcester Waterkloof, I've known a bit about their hockey program. In Pretoria, and they've always had a good hockey program, producing good teams. They drew 1-1 with Monument. Which. Always known for their rugby, but they're
a bit below.
Yeah, producing a good hockey side in that today. I think they would think that's a fantastic result.
No,
that's another good result. Yeah, and I think, as you say, in terms of the Kes Pretoria Boys, they've had sort of similar seasons, drawn games against really good teams.
Yeah.
Narrowly lost to others. So probably a result that we would have seen or expected from them, and another really, as you say, it must have been a wonderful game to be at. I'm sure it was pretty physical as well. There wouldn't have been a lot held back there, would there?
Not at all.
What else stood out for you, Bridget?
So actually, is Macy's taking on Paul Sim, resulting in Affies with a 2-1 win. And we again speak about the Paul Sim team, that individual skills. They have Radomir up front, who's probably one of the best strikers I've seen at schoolgirl hockey for a long time. And the Affies team, so, untraditional hockey mindset of Northern's hockey, yet they had a phenomenal game. Just came out, took that win. They celebrated like it was a World Cup. Their coach, Nicoline Blanche, an ex-national player.
Well, you know where that's coming from, eh? So they were going to always be tough. They were going to give 110%, weren't they?
And I think their tour down to the Cape, also one that they're going to remember for a long time. Beating Paul is really something that they're working towards, and you're going to see their season growing from strength to strength. I'm sure of it.
And closing out for you?
Yeah, an epic 8-goal thriller. Paul Roos, Grey High School.
Phenomenal.
Goosebumps still.
I think Paul Roos is an incredible team, and for Grey to go down to Stellenbosch and draw 4.
What really impressed me in that they were always coming from behind. Every time they went down, you were thinking, okay, here it goes. It's sort of, this is what we expected. Paul Roos are going to put the hammer down. Grey came back at them, right into the very end, and finishing in that 4 draw. Do you think we're going to see a bigger cracker this whole season, 4 goals like that? It was just, if we see something better than that, where's it going to come from?
I know.
Look, I think there's some big games coming up, and I think that as we've seen in previous shows, that those derby fixtures often bring about a different style of hockey. You've got the full school in the stands. Coaches don't like it because there's all this hype around fixtures, which is become synonymous with South African school sport. But the kids are not used to playing in front of crowds like that. And I mean
the crowd there, look, 4,000 or 5,000 people. It was just humming, wasn't it? It was just
buzzing.
wonderful. I mean, that's your sort of Hyundai Friday Night Lights at its absolute very best. And obviously we're hoping to see a lot more of that as the season goes on. The one team, Chris, that we haven't yet to see, Sax have been on this overseas tour. We're expecting a lot from them. Lita Cry at the forefront of that. I know you recently saw him training, and you just saying, look, he's looking sharp as anything. We haven't seen them yet. Obviously, in the next couple of weeks, we'll really see what the Sax team have got and what they're going to bring to this boys' season.
They're going to play Paul Filet next Friday. So that will be our Friday Night Lights on the 25th of April. So that's
give us that first indicator of
exactly
what that team looks like.
Lita's in the South African under-21 team that are about to depart for the World Cup qualifiers in Namibia. Great experience for him. He'll be playing for Sax at the Hibbert Shield.
Yes.
So it'll be good to watch him play there. But only in grade 11, hey? And what an incredible talent. I'm looking forward to seeing the got a bright future.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see. What else has stood out for you?
Series has been going for almost 15 years now, and they play regional hockey tournaments across the KZN space, and it's quite fun because you've got the southern region, which is untraditional schools, the Mams and Toti playing Kingswood in the final. Kingsway, sorry.
As a Toti boy growing up as a kid.
Kingsway. And Kingsway eventually clinching that win on a shootout. Now, those are two untraditional hockey sides. They're stepping into the space. They're getting the limelight. It's just so exciting to watch, and that's what Spa Hockey is about, and that's super. And then across down the road a little bit to the northern regionals, we had Our Lady of Fatima, who's on a winning streak. They've had a great St. Mary's Hockey Festival, taking on Ashton College. Now, Ashton College again coming up, sitting in Belito, small little town, goes down to the final. Ashton gets a sneak in, and they win 1-0, and they beat
it's been wonderful to watch Ashton. I mean, a relatively new school in the South African schools environment. There's been a lot of focus on hockey there at Ashton.
Absolutely.
Over the last couple of years. And so perhaps not a surprising result in that they really do focus on the game, but a wonderful result for hockey. And
I think
seeing it.
I think a nice one because it's you're playing traditional hockey schools that you would think would have got the win. But now they're getting the chance to go on to the finals, which is so exciting.
Bridget, what goes to what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks is how the playing fields are starting to level out. Schools have access to very equal facilities in many ways. Good coaching at schools, and Darren Gallagher mentioned it in the earlier segment that he's trying to coach a team that is very difficult to beat, and I think more coaches are taking on that. We might not win everything, but you're going to find it very difficult to play against us.
Yeah.
And I mean, there have been some more results like that in the boys' hockey where, in this past season, you're starting to see that come through. What else sort of stood out for you this weekend?
So interesting, I spoke about watching the Paul Roos under 14 team play. And
of course, they were just so good at founders when they scored
46 goals and didn't concede one. And Grey High School only went down 1-0 to them. So that must have been a cracking game as well.
So it must have been a wonderful
interesting for me because I picked that Paul Roos side to not be challenged much, considering the firepower they have in their team. But Grey obviously have a very good under-14 team.
And I mean, Paul Boys High, 1-0 against Somerset. Yeah. A little bit more about what you're talking about.
Somerset College play at the Independent Schools Festival. Organised, well-coached, difficult team to play against. They defend well. They've got some flair going forward. So, again, good to see that schools we wouldn't assume to be traditionally competitive in these festivals are starting to come up. And Paul Boys High pride themselves in their hockey setup. They have a very good Coastal Cup. And so
exciting for that.
Yeah, to only beat Somerset there 1-0, it must have been another good game.
Yeah. And rounding out the weekend, any last fixture that really sort of stood out for you amongst the boys?
Yeah, Selborne had a sort of slow start to the year, but having watched Pearson play at Coastal Cup, I thought Pearson was a good outfit. And Selborne beat them 5-1, which is that's a surprising result for me. I thought the game would be closer.
Oh, well, that's some really good hockey leadership there in the Selborne management ranks. So not surprising. It is, we do see it there, and it's wonderful to see them, out of East London going down to Port Elizabeth team coming up down to East London and really dominating.
Kelvin, is that, we've seen so many of these schools play at all the different festivals that have been available now. I mean, Selborne were at Nomads. They back up here for the Kes Festival. Hilton were up here for Nomads. They back here for Saints.
Absolutely.
A lot of travelling sides.
Lots of opportunity.
Wonderful to do. Well, as you say, and as you mentioned, that Hilton team, we'll be talking to their coaches after the break, and we'll be back shortly. Bridget Kennison, after another wonderful weekend of Derby hockey, our latest guests, the Hilton College terrible twins, Devin van der Merwe, Damien Kimfley. Wonderful to have you both on the show. Not going to go through your two CVs. I think it would keep us here for a long time, and you might want to fill in a bit on Damo's CV along the way. But an ex-national player, coach of the Hilton College first team now for your fourth season? Fifth season at the first team. I should remember that, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
I think I was there at the start. Absolutely. So wonderful to have you on the show. Devin van der Merwe, on the show, I can't not say that he's part of the Maritzburg College Red Army. It's really where he learned his hockey, and that's why he's become such a wonderfully fine coach. So you started out your career, wonderful hockey player in your day, first team hockey coach, currently one of the assistants in the national men's setup. Wonderful to have you both on, just to have such incredible hockey people on the show, which is such a special gift for us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Damo, we'll start with you. I mean, it's been a wonderful start to the season for Hilton College. You really are sitting. rankings are rankings. A lot of us don't necessarily believe them, but you're sitting right up there in the top two. We haven't seen anything from Sachs yet, and they are the team that we think is really going to be interesting this season. But a wonderful start to the season. You must be very pleased.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that we're second. Didn't even know that. So thanks for telling me. We started off really well. I'm very excited. Put a lot of effort into starting the season quite well. Like I said, for our pre-season, we try to work on 3 blocks where we said first start is the first 2 games, and then Nomads, and then Saints, and then the rest of the season. So we put focus on 2 games and then going into Nomads and then Saints. So our boys know where they're going, and they're putting in a hard shift at the moment.
Damo, you make such a good point about just, as a coach coming into a season where you almost start like a Formula One car. You've got to get through the gears really, really quickly. There's no sort of room to take a few warm-up laps and see what it's like. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. Extremely, especially at a private school where all our boys have to play a summer sport, and they have to play cricket or basketball. So trying to get boys to training sessions and to get them ready, it's extremely tough. We had 1 pre-season game and then straight into it against a government school, Westville. So it was extremely tough for us.
And explain to me the sort of government private that you bring up. Don't have that double sport combination.
Yeah, so with obviously government school, they're a lot bigger than us. So they can, certain oaks do specialize in certain codes. So hockey, where for us, we don't have anyone that specializes in hockey. So I have oaks at cricket and at basketball, and then they come to me on a Monday, and then I try to work it. And then you get injuries, and then you have to try and figure that out as well. So it's, like you said, it's just get go. You start and you go.
Damo, in some ways, there are some positive elements to that. I think that, certainly in the independent schools, you've got your athletes are probably a little bit better conditioned because they have a 12-month program.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you guys focus a lot on your strength and conditioning. How do you overlap that with the other sports?
Yeah, so it's quite important for us how we do that, especially in the hockey space, because you go from cricket where it's standstill and you bowling in, and then all of a sudden hockey, you got to get oaks running and do it, and then you get the basketball players that can move around, and then you get now the water polo guys that's in the pool. So we got to try and balance it out between, okay, this group, when we do testing start of the year, which group starts. So the first group will do that running. The others will do that.
I guess the other impact is obviously injuries, and I know with Regan Maddow, for example, in your side, a basketball injury that's kept him out. But that strength and conditioning that Moodles is talking about, I know, Dev, you've had a change in your strength and conditioning coach this year. got some very positive results. The team's really looking in great shape.
Yeah, very dynamic change with Mfundo Gumere. He's new and he's been very deliberate. We've been very clear about what we want to achieve in that space and what we want the athlete to look like. And so he's had carte blanche to do what he needs to do and the time to do it. Look, as an S&C coach, you're only going to be as effective as much as your team values you. And so for us, if you can't run and you're not physically in shape, you can't play the game. And so for us, he's been an absolute game changer.
It's so interesting. So many coaches have alluded to this lately. The need for that physicality and how the game has evolved so much. That speed and strength and the conditioning aspect is now imperative across the board. Like everyone needs that. Wasn't such a big focus take 10 years ago, 5 years ago even.
Now the game's got really quick bridge and so we have to keep up with that. We have to be as quick and as fast as opposition. And my mandate to Mfundo was that we wanted to be one of the quickest, fastest and best conditioned teams around.
And obviously to take that into the sort of fourth chuckers and various things. I mean, for example, in the Kes game at Nomads, you guys were up against the 2-0 down in the first year to pretty much fight your way back. But in that fourth chucker, really took control. And, you know, the scoreboard might show 4-2. It wasn't that easy. But a lot of that conditioning really came, because that was also on the Sunday night. You'd had games delayed. You'd probably played a game a couple of hours. I think you mentioned to me the longest match you've ever played in was about a 5-hour match.
Yeah, from 11:15 and ended at 4:45.
4:45, and the boys were back at 7 o'clock after a very tough encounter early on. So that strength and conditioning is just critical, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're in good shape, you can adjust and adapt a little bit better. You can just go longer, you can concentrate longer. And that's what we want to about. And technically, you're just far, far better off when you can breathe a little bit longer than the rest can.
And one of the things that you've also mentioned to me last night when we bumped into each other, you were saying that this is a very coachable group. And obviously that has some massive benefits. And I think it's, you can really see it. Not a team of one or two superstars, really a very good team in the way that they play. But being fit and strong also is a bit easier to be coachable because you're not sort of sucking air. You're listening and you're engaging with the coaching staff.
Yeah, they're a switched on bunch, Calvin, and so they need the detail. We've been very deliberate in our preseason as to what areas we want to get the ball into, how we want to move the ball. And you said we don't have a bunch of superstars. We don't. We have a team. They're happy to be around each other. They're happy to work together, and they're happy to put in a shift together. And that takes you a long way. It takes you a long way. We haven't quite had a season like this yet to date, where we are right now. And credit to Damien and the boys for the work that they've put in to date. We understood that we got 2 tough games at the start of the season. We understood that we're coming into a brutal 2.5-5 game Nomads. We understood that we've got 2 weeks and then we've got 5 games at Saints. We know this. And so we have to be ready and we have to be prepared. And we cannot sit and make any excuses. You have to come out and perform.
I guess the good news though, going into 2026, 12 of these boys are back.
Yes.
12.
That's phenomenal.
Extraordinary. I mean, that must be like, this is not the time to be looking for a new job, is it? This is the time to sit back and sort of get all the rewards that you spent so much time putting in the work, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. And that's so important because, like we said last year, we lost 9 guys. So last year I lost 9 guys and I was worried about how's the team going to look, how am I going to shape it up. And this group just came from the get-go. They worked hard. They want, like Devin said about the feedback and the video, they're always asking me when the game is done on a Saturday afternoon already, as soon as rugby's done, they ask, hey, so where's the video? So they want the video ready to look
so
at.
rewarding.
So we do a lot of
tell
video.
them it's on SuperSport Schools, just if they were,
Yes.
or they're looking for your analysis.
Yeah, they want the analysis with my coding piece and
well,
all of that.
We
so
can't beat that.
They're sitting watching the first team rugby, watching their game again. I think.
Yeah, so it's really nice because they get their phones and we got an app that we upload, so they get the stuff now on their phone. It's not anymore me having to sit with video. They get it Saturday night on their phone when we come Monday to video. They've got the questions for me, not me leading the video and saying, guys, this. They asking me, so can we look at that clip?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I think this is an incredibly important component of hockey is getting players to buy into coaching systems. They must feel like they're leading, because then there's buy-in.
Correct.
You know, they must also understand why the coach is instructing certain things and ask the right questions so that when you are in game scenarios when, we want to, hockey players, we always have found that they've been quite intelligent human beings,
Thanks, Meadles.
And I think that because of that, this having players buy in and having them contribute to the way the team's going to play gets what you've got now, where guys become hungry for information, they want more. It's something that I think we need to focus on more higher up at senior level.
Absolutely.
As well. Is getting players to understand why they're doing certain things.
So like on that point, I absolutely agree. It's like Calvin just touched on the kids game. When we were down 2-0, the boys came to me and said, "Sir, can we do this in the short corner? Like this will work." And I was like, no, let's keep going. And then they did it and they scored and they told me like, "Sir, it's gonna work." And like for me, I was like, okay, we're heading in the right direction. The boys are now telling me as well, like, "Sir, this is what we need to do," and that works. And for me, I'm open to my players also telling me like, "So we need to try this." I'm not just it's my way and the highway. I'm very open to that.
Do you find that being at Hilton, there's this nice opportunity? I mean, all the boys live on campus. You guys are there. Do they go down? Do they train by themselves? Are they very, deliberate about their individual skill sets and working on those individually? Is that something that they do?
It's like I said, it's in term one, it's a struggle because the boys just play summer sport and then they got hours. So when they have their downtime, they have their downtime. But in season, you see a lot of them come out and helping the juniors when under 14s are training at short plays. They be flicking as well, or they're out there always. Like a lot of our boys generally join under 16 training as well on their day. They for the mini game or something, they'll join in and say, "Hey, can we play?" So it's good, but it's only in season that happens, not across the term, because it's just so difficult.
Sure.
It's wonderful to have such wonderful coaches on our show with such a depth of knowledge and everything. So I'm going to put the two of you on the spot as we close out. Devin, what would you like to see more of in sort of boys and schoolboy hockey?
We've got to move the ball, Calvin. Combination play. I'm big on combination play and moving the ball and being deliberate about it. Yeah, at a higher level, we cannot do enough of this.
Yes.
And it's important that as schoolboy at this level and moving into the under 21 is having the ability to string more passes together and being deliberate about it and having a plan about it. Combination play assists also with ball retention. We cannot keep the ball long enough and at a junior international level and at a senior international level, and until we can do it here,
can't take it into that.
We cannot continue.
And maybe putting you on the spot a bit. I mean, it's always a tough question, but what is the stuff you'd like to see less of in our boys hockey?
Calvin, I think Damien and I can be better at this too. I think it's abuse of umpires. It's getting bad in our game. Unfortunately, we need umpires. We need them. We are working hard to push the envelope and compete at a very high level, and we need to aid umpires to do the same, but we can't help them improve when we bash them.
I mean, I watched a bit of club hockey this past weekend, and I was actually quite horrified at what I was seeing on the field, and it's really something that we've got to stop, because players don't perform better, neither do the coaches when that sort of thing takes over. It's been wonderful having the two of you on the show. We really appreciate it. Good luck for the rest of the weekend here at Saints. Tonight we're looking for that wonderful clash between Hilton and St. Stithians. It's really become a bit of one of the big games of the season for both teams. All the very best with that. You know whose team I'm on.
It's going to be a humdinger.
It's been wonderful. Another wonderful show tonight from Saints Astro. Thanks to St. Stithians for hosting us, and we'll see you next week on Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai.